All right, welcome to today's daily vlog, and today I'm going to talk about why training and anybody who's really involved in strength and conditioning, like how unspecific to sport it really is. So this kind of came up because today I went to East Stroudsburg University's men's basketball game against IUP tonight. Guys fought hard. We fell short. I only could make like the last, 5 minutes of regulation. We sent it into overtime. And then, one thing led to another. Things didn't go our way. But, as I'm watching the game and as I'm thinking back, it's to today, if many of you looked at my Instagram story, you saw all these different reactive drills I was doing, and we're trying to, as best as possible, make these practices representative to what's seen in sport. Trying as much as I can to, provide affordances for athletes that relate to similar things they will see in a game, and try to manipulate constraints based upon how they're going to be put in situation in games, and trying to match up the training as best as I possibly can in the situation I'm in to make that training transfer work. And watching this basketball game, that was the most specific training for for reactive ability, for all planes of movement, sagittal, frontal, and transverse, for speed, power, and displays of strength, vertical ability, horizontal force ability, coordination, motor skill learning. It was the most specific for everything. You know what I mean? And I'm looking at it, kind of going like, wow, this sports specific training deal really isn't a thing. That our strength and conditioning realm, you can't replicate that. Just like the speeds at which they're moving, the amount of different complex situations that these athletes have to problem solve with and figure out. You know what I mean? There's so many complex factors that are incorporated to any playing situation that unless you're really doing that's sport specific training. You know what I mean? And Mike Boyle has been kind of going on, I don't want to call it a rant, but he's been kind of diving into the subject on Instagram a little bit and on his blog. But I really agree with what he's saying. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, for most of our athletes, we're focusing on very similar movement patterns. We have very specific goals in mind to, increase force production, decrease ground contact time by increasing plyometric ability, reactability, and stiffness. We want to increase overall strength. Depending on, the type of athlete, we want to increase muscle mass, maybe, or increase relative strength over a gradual amount of time. And we want to provide them with opportunities to improve their force production into the ground, right? A lot of, our athletes have to interact with the ground. We need to improve the ability that they have to apply the force of their ground and the direction, you know what I mean? And, most of the time in our settings, we're going to be able to target, that linear side, very strict kind of movement patterns, unless you have a wide open space like Jamie Smith from the U of Strength. He utilizes, his space better than anybody I've seen. You know what I mean? Him and Sean Mishka really push the envelope on creating situations instead of really, their view is instead of coaching the athletes, you put them in situations to make the decisions that you want, and that's something that as a coach, I'm really trying to get better at. I'm trying to, be creative in making up drills that allow the athlete to make the decision for a successful sport move against another human to do a certain movement. You know what I mean? To change direction, to use an agility move. It's a problem-solving deal where I want the athletes to just react, and I'm trying to put them in situations where they can work on movements that I feel, or situations that I feel they need to get better at solving problems with. And, watching this basketball game just made me like think about it. It's like, you know what, even the drills that, we're doing for strength and conditioning, these drills are great, you know what I mean? Because within the setting we're in, we're giving these athletes more exposure to these types of affordances, like, you know what I mean? These types of stimuluses, because at the end of the day, if we're transitioning from having the center of our practice be on strict movement patterns that are internally focused and teaching this perfect technique model, and the next natural step now is that we're kind of getting away from that, and we're not focusing on teaching perfect technique, and we're allowing athletes to figure out the proper solution for them, the optimal solution for them to be successful in a movement, and we are the ones who are creating the situations where they can actualize those movements. I think we're going in the right direction, and I'm sure in years time, like, our views are going to be a little bit further progressed, and the strength and conditioning realm could even move to where we really have to work hand in hand with sport coaches, because as Fergus Connolly kind of his model utilizes, the physical part of things are only about 25%. Like, it's one quarter of it. You still have that psychological, you still have that physiological, and you have that tactical. So if you can pair up like these types of training to fit all of those foundations, especially that tactical side, just having a better awareness of the game can make somebody 10 times better, right? We all know that person who, Vontrez Burfict, right? He gets a bad rap. Dude ran a 5-second 40-yard dash, but he knows how to play linebacker, right? Because he knows the game, you know what I mean? And same thing with some other guys who maybe aren't as athletic, when they go out and they play their sport, whatever it is, they might not be at the height of physical, the height of the physical pool. But when it comes to their knowledge and their tactical ability, those guys know more than any other player what's going on. And that information, that tactical awareness and understanding of the game kind of lets them see the other athletes' affordances and how to shut those things down. Or maybe, as a, goal scorer, the defensive strategy, so you know how to best attack it. And then you utilize movements, and more affordances open up for you because you have this tactical knowledge. So, getting those things to work hand in hand is going to be, I think, a huge push in the strength and conditioning industry. And all of us coaches, I think, really trying to buy into this idea that we're not here to coach perfect movement. I think with younger athletes, we definitely need to spend time teaching them, that they do have these movement patterns, just for example, like teaching a kid to shuffle properly without crossing over their feet or tapping their feet. You know what I mean? Just like, hey, like, you can do this. So if you're trying to read something, instead of you turning and opening your hips, you can shuffle to read this in that transition movement, so then you can actualize and run or change back the other way. But, for example, you see a younger kid, they're lined up 5 yards in front of somebody, they're facing each other, and, athlete 1 runs to the right. Athlete 2 may just run at them directly. You know what I mean? And then next thing you know, the athlete who had the ball or whatever is cutting past them the opposite direction. But this younger athlete had no idea how to shuffle, how to use these transition movements so that they can read the environment around them and find out what affordances they have to actualize that problem-solving skill. So that's just kind of what I was thinking about today. If you got any questions on this topic or want to talk about this topic, because it's a topic that I'm just trying to learn about every day, I'd love to link up and kind of get anyone's input on this. So thanks. Have a good night.